Welcome back to the Motivated Mind Zone. Today we are cutting straight to probably the most painful moment in language learning. You know exactly what I'm talking
Oh,
about.
yeah. Everyone's been there.
You're sitting there, maybe you're just reading an article in English and you feel fluent. The grammar's there, the vocabulary makes sense. You feel completely capable.
You're comfortable. You're in control.
Exactly. But then the moment comes, you open your mouth in a real conversation, maybe a job interview, or, just with a group of friends, and it all just collapses.
It's like a cognitive brick wall.
Yes, the hard drive freezes. Your heart starts pounding. Your mind goes completely blank. And those simple, basic English words you absolutely know, they just vanish.
And you're left standing there thinking, what is wrong with me?
Right. I was fluent 2 minutes ago, alone in my head. Why is my brain betraying me now?
And that's the core message we want to get across from the source material we analyzed. Right now. Nothing is wrong with you. That feeling is not a sign of poor language skill.
So our mission for this deep dive is to prove exactly that. We're going to explore the biological and psychological reasons why you freeze.
We're going to show you that it's not a language problem that needs more vocabulary. It's a brain problem that needs a totally different approach.
So let's start with the biggest lie every learner tells themselves in that moment, that silent moment.
Yes, the internal critic.
When the freeze hits, the first thought is always, I froze because my English isn't good enough. It's just this immediate, automatic assumption.
And it is fundamentally wrong. I mean, if your English were truly insufficient, if that were the actual cause, you couldn't do all the other things you do.
What do you mean?
Well, think about it. You can understand a complex podcast. You can read articles, maybe even books. Many learners even think in English sometimes, internally.
Right. The input is fine.
Exactly.
Yeah.
If the language database in your brain is good enough for all that, then the problem isn't the database of words. The problem is the output mechanism when it's put under pressure.
That's the key insight, isn't it? The capability is there, it's proven, but everything stalls when you have to speak.
Yes, the collapse isn't a language deficiency. It's a cognitive execution failure. Freezing is about overload and, crucially, an activated stress response. That's why we call it a brain problem.
Okay, let's get into the biology then, because this is where it gets really interesting. When you speak English in real life, especially with, a native speaker or in a meeting, your brain misinterprets the whole thing.
It's a profound misinterpretation.
Yeah.
You consciously know it's just a chat, but because speaking puts you on display, your brain registers the social pressure as a legitimate threat.
A threat. That sounds dramatic. I mean, my brain thinks talking to someone is like seeing a spider.
Not literally the same danger, but the response mechanism is identical. When the brain perceives a threat, any threat, physical or social, it triggers the universal survival system, fight, flight, or freeze. Freeze. It's an adaptive response in nature. For us, in a conversation, it just means silence and mental paralysis.
Yeah. So that's what's causing the physical symptoms. The mind going empty, the mouth feeling stuck.
Yes, and the disappearance of simple words like the or a. Your brain is basically executing a protective lockdown. It's trying to protect you.
It's saying, speaking is dangerous, so I'm shutting down speech to prevent embarrassment.
Precisely. It's prioritizing your social safety over your communication goal. And when you see it as biology, not a personal failure, you can start to work with it.
That leads perfectly into this paradox I found so fascinating in the sources. It seems that the smarter and more careful you are,
the more likely you are to freeze.
Right. How can being smart actually work against you here?
It's because the intelligent, careful learner is doing way too much cognitive monitoring. While you're speaking, your brain is trying to manage an impossible number of tasks at the same time.
Okay, break that down for us. What are those tasks?
Well, we identified 5. First, you have to actually generate the idea you want to express.
Step 1, obvious enough.
2, you're performing a real-time translation from your native language. 3, you're constantly checking every word against grammar rules you learned.
So you're being a student and a speaker at the same time.
Exactly. 4, you're meticulously monitoring your own pronunciation. And 5, the most damaging one, you're actively worrying about making a mistake.
Wow. Okay, just listing those is exhausting. You're running at like 500% capacity. Just say one sentence.
You really are. A native speaker isn't using any mental energy on grammar or pronunciation. It's all automated. But the careful learner is using their prefrontal cortex for all of it.
There was a great analogy for this in the material.
Yeah, it's like trying to drive a car while also texting, reading a map, and panicking about the police being behind you. Your brain can't do it all, so what does it do?
It hits the emergency brake.
It shuts down. That silence is the emergency brake.
And a lot of that shutdown is tied to what you call the translation trap, this idea that some people are translating English, not speaking it.
That's right. For the person who freezes, the process is, well, it's very mechanical. An idea comes in, it goes into your native language, then it gets translated word for word into English, then it goes through a grammar check.
And only then do you actually speak.
If you get that far. That system is incredibly fragile. Under stress, it just stalls. You get stuck in the middle of that process. Compare that to a fluent speaker.
Right.
Thought, speak.
No middleman. No internal editor.
None. So if that whole mechanical process is failing, what's the emotional force causing the failure? What's the real enemy?
The fear.
It's the fear of judgment, the fear of sounding stupid, the fear of making a mistake in front of other people. That's the real barrier, not your vocabulary list.
And this actually has a formal name in research, doesn't it?
It does. It's called foreign language anxiety. And here's the painful irony. The deep fear of making mistakes actually causes more mistakes.
How so?
Because your brain diverts all its resources to scanning for danger, the embarrassment, the judgment, and away from the actual task of communicating. You leave no mental energy for forming sentences.
This feels like it connects directly to identity, which is the next point. The identity problem. If deep down you believe, I'm just not a good English speaker,
Your brain will make it a reality. It's a powerful, self-fulfilling prophecy. Your brain is surprisingly obedient. It doesn't question that identity, it just generates behavior to match it. Silence, avoidance, freezing. It all confirms the belief.
So fluency isn't just about passing a test. It's about changing your identity from a learner to a communicator.
That's it, exactly. The sources put it beautifully. Fluency is not just skill, it is permission.
Permission to what?
Permission to speak imperfectly, permission to make mistakes and just move on. Until you can turn off that internal editor, the pressure will always be too high.
This explains a really common frustration. You hear it all the time. I listen to English constantly, I read books, but when I have to speak, I can't.
And it's because the brain handles those tasks differently. Listening is a low-pressure activity. You can pause, look up a word, no consequences. Speaking happens with pressure, real time, with social scrutiny.
Which is why I can feel totally fluent when I'm just thinking to myself in the car.
But it evaporates in front of other people. Your language ability didn't change in those 5 seconds. The perceived threat level changed.
Okay, so we've covered the biology, the overload, the fear. Let's get to the most important realization. What should you take away from the experience of freezing?
We need to reframe it positively. Freezing means 3 things. 1, it means your brain cares deeply. 2, it means you want to do well. And 3, it just means you're human.
Responding to stress the way we're all designed to.
Exactly. And let's be clear what it does not mean.
Right.
It does not mean you're bad at English. It does not mean you'll never be fluent. It just means your brain needs safety, not more grammar rules.
So with all that in mind, what is the single biggest shift we can make?
We have to change the goal. The old goal, speak perfectly, is a trap. It guarantees you'll freeze. The new goal has to be communicate, even badly. Fluent speakers don't wait for the perfect sentence. They prioritize connection. They move forward anyway. Mistakes are just proof that you're trying.
You're giving yourself permission to be a communicator, not a performer. If you wait for perfection, you'll wait forever.
That's it. And that brings us to the final thought we want to leave you with.
This has been an amazing deep dive. I think the main takeaway is if you have ever frozen speaking English, you're not broken, you're just learning.
And here's the key you can apply today. Confidence comes after the action, not before it. You don't get confident and then decide to speak. You choose to speak imperfectly, and that action builds the confidence.
So fluency doesn't start with confidence.
No, it begins with permission. The permission to speak no matter how it comes out.
Give yourself that permission. Keep practicing imperfectly. We'll see you next time on The Deep Dive.